What's up guys, it's CG. So this is going to be a thorough review of Jubilation 40 by the House of Amouage. First I'm going to give you guys a rundown so you have a general idea what the fragrance is about. Then I'm going to share how users rated the scent profile and the performance. My wife and I are going to share our impressions of it. And finally I'm going to share my overall opinion after wearing it. Without further ado, let's get this started. If I were to describe this fragrance, I would say it's a very fruit-forward fragrance with incense and resins. It's definitely in that same category as Jubilation 25, but easy to tell apart from it as well. The notes on Amouage's website indicate that it's a complex fragrance. They claim that it's 40% oil concentration. It goes through 11 weeks of aging, 8 weeks of maceration, and 3 weeks of maturation. Now, in my personal experience, increased oil concentration affects the depth and complexity of a fragrance a lot more than it affects the performance. But sometimes it can make a fragrance last substantially longer. And when it does affect performance, it tends to increase longevity more than it increases sillage. Out of 230 votes, it received an average scent rating of an 8.5. 3 out of 4 people gave it an 8 or above, and about half of people gave it a 9 or a 10. As far as how I would rate this scent, I feel like standalone, looking at it just for what it is, I would give it a 9. But since I cannot help but compare it to Jubilation 25, which is like one of the greatest things I've ever smelt, I feel like I'm giving it an 8 just because of that comparison, and it sucks. For longevity, it got an average rating of an 8.4. 3 out of 4 people would give it an 8 or a 9. I would give it like a 9. It lasts most of the workday for me, like a good 7 to 8 hours. For sillage, it got an average rating of a 7.4. 2 out of 3 people gave it a 7 or an 8. For sillage, I would give it like a 7. I feel like it stays pretty close to the skin. A little bit more than I want to, but nothing bad. So to describe the scent on the opening, it's pretty fruity. There's quite a bit of that blackberry Amouage Jubilation smell to it, and it's got a bit of resinous underneath, and as it dries down, it just becomes more fruity and more resinous. I wish there was more I could say about how it smells, but to me, I don't know why, but I'm not getting something that's very complex. I know other people are going to totally disagree with me on that it's a lot more complex than the original. But for me, I'm really getting like a Middle Eastern fruity incense smell. And it reminds me of Jubilation 25. But it's definitely not the same. It deviates quite a bit. It's more of a deviation from Jubilation 25 than Reflection 45 is from Reflection. And the way it deviates is Jubilation 25 is more smoky, it's more soft, and to me it's more complex. There's more going on with it. The incense, blackberry, it's got a bit of sweetness underneath, and it kind of has a bit of sourness. With this, I'm getting a lot more fruitiness with that kind of sourness that I get from Jubilation, and incense and resin. If anything, it actually reminds me of the dry down of Jubilation 25 far into it, where it starts to smell more Middle Eastern. It's more warm, it's more inviting, where I would say Jubilation 25 is more fresh and invigorating. Standalone, I like the scent, but I can't help but compare it to Jubilation 25. And I'm just gonna be honest here, like Jubilation 25 for scent alone destroys Jubilation 40 for me, at least. Like, it gives me such a happiness. And keep in mind, that's so subjective. I think Jubilation 25 is one of the greatest fragrances I ever smelt. So it's gonna be pretty hard to change that composition and make something better for me. But yeah, 100% would go for Jubilation 25 on scent alone. I would give Jubilation 25 an easy 10. This one I would give an 8. It's just missing that magic spark for me, where I spray Jubilation 25 and it's that fresh, otherworldly smell. This to me is more like a fruity incense Middle Eastern smell. It's not as shocking, surprising, uplifting for me. Now the performance, the longevity is better on this one, but the sillage isn't so great. But just, if they were the same price, Jubilation 25, Jubilation 40, which one would I pick? I would pick Jubilation 40 only because Jubilation 25 just gets like 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, something like that. So I'll never wear it on a work day. Jubilation 40, I get 6 to 8 hours, even a little bit longer. So I actually would reach for it more often. It's like, I don't like to spray something on, go to work, and before my lunch break it's gone, or I go out and by the time I get to the place I get like an hour, then it's gone. Jubilation 40 lasts. So if they were the same price, I would go for Jubilation 40. I just think I would reach for it more often purely for that reason. But at the same time, given the price difference that currently exists, where Jubilation 40 is like double the cost of 25, I would go for Jubilation 25 100%. So that's just the value ratio in my mind. And in my collection, I don't think it'd be redundant to have Jubilation 40, but at the same time, I would rather just have 25. I'd rather have Epic Man. I'd rather have Reflection, Journeyman. It would give me a bit more variety. I feel like it's close enough to the same vibe as 25 that I wouldn't really want to have both, if that makes sense. I would sacrifice the 40 to get another Amouage that provides something a bit more different than that same kind of blackberry incense vibe. I want to open up this discussion a little bit because I'm curious what other people's thoughts are, but this like 40% oil concentration stuff doesn't necessarily mean double the longevity. It's a bit more complex and nuanced than that. I know this from experience, from research, from what I understand, that these higher oil concentrations without explanation can become a bit gimmicky. It doesn't mean like if something's 20% concentration of 40, it doesn't mean it's gonna be double the performance. You are getting more oil, so it is worth more money. But as somebody who's like gotten into oud atars or just regular atars from the Middle East, these are like, I don't know the oil concentration, but they look close to like 100%. And I get better longevity from them. They last a really long time, but they don't project. So I actually don't like high oil concentration fragrances. I like that blast of freshness that comes with the lower concentrations. And there's a lot more to performance. It's a lot more nuanced than just how much oil. That's why no matter how many sprays of Jubilation 25 in the same spot, that alcohol is just a carrier agent, and when it evaporates, you're left with 100% oil concentration. But no matter how many times you spray, it still lasts 3 hours. And my understanding is aroma chemicals have two aspects to them. They have how fast they evaporate, and they have a thing called threshold of detection. Some aroma chemicals evaporate faster than others, and some you need more in the air to be able to smell it than others. This is why just certain things are more pungent than others. You can have a little bit of something and it really stinks up a room, or a lot of something and you have to put your nose in it to smell it. That's threshold of detectability. How pungent is it, and how fast does the chemical actually evaporate? Things like citruses, like lemon chemicals evaporate way faster than your woods and your ouds, which evaporate slower, and you need less of them in the air to detect them. So it gets a bit more complex than to just say, oh, it's an eau de parfum, eau de toilette, higher oil concentration, lower. And the way Jubilation 25 was reformulated, I've never smelt vintage, but it had to smell a bit different than what's currently out there now. Like, I feel like the actual scent composition had to change a bit. So I think that the scent composition changing in Jubilation 40 contributes just as much to its performance improvement as the oil concentration. But it's an interesting subject because I read things get watered down and stuff all the time. It's like a hot topic, and I'm curious what other people's thoughts are on this. But I imagine reformulation has more to do with actually changing the scent composition over time due to IFRA regulations, this, that, and the other. Maybe it's their inability to source the ingredients, or maybe they're like actually messing with people, but I don't think you just reduce the oil concentration and it destroys performance.
Up next we have Amouage Jubilation 40. I love it. A very comforting scent, and to me it smells like ginger cookies, which I love, and it has like that cozy, let's sit around the fireplace, we're wearing sweaters moment to it, but not necessarily like it's a winter fragrance. I'm just saying I feel like it would be more suitable for fall and winter. But in terms of like age and things like that, maybe somebody a little more experienced, like let's say 30s and up. Very good. I give it a 9.5. Okay, I feel like the one that I just smelled right now is smokier than the first one, and the first one smells more citrusy than the second one. So
Smell again, and then this one again.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, first was like a more citrusy and a stronger scent too. And the second one was like the scent was slightly more delicate and smokier.
Which one did you like more?
Number one.
This one?
Yes.
What do you like about it more?
I feel like the scent has more definition, if that makes sense.
Alright.
What was it though?
That's the Jubilation 40 on the right and then 25 on the left.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like Jubilation 25 more. I feel like it's more like soft, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm. But
This
it's
is more
smoky.
like grimy to me.
Well, you know, if you're thinking about niche perfumery, 25 is more obscure, like more unique. It's more unique. And the 41 is more like a basic, could even be like a fancy store hand soap
You're gonna
scent.
get me canceled.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You're gonna get me.
I'm not trying to get anything canceled. So that's that aspect. There's that aspect too.
So Jubilation 40 is a miss for me. It's worth trying, even if you try Jubilation 25, because I know some people really love Jubilation 40. I thought it was going to be like a holy grail thing, like a retirement fragrance. Like I was going to find it and be like, oh, someday when I shrink down to 5 bottles, it will be one of them, because of how much I love Jubilation 25, and it really wasn't that for me. It's not worth the money. I would rather have something different and just keep my 25. Feel free to comment with y'all's opinions, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.